My name is Claire Theobald, I'm Education Services Manager at the British Nutrition Foundation, and our webinar this afternoon is going to be looking at the resources we have available for early years. So we've got quite a big collection. I've tried to pull out some that I think will really showcase what else is available and help you give you a taste of the things that we have on the website. So we obviously produce a lot of resources on healthy eating, cooking, and where food comes from, but these resources are fantastic as well for delivering other aspects of the early years curriculum. So thinking about language, literacy, numeracy, etc. And I'm sure you will know as professional practitioners, as we're going through, you'll be able to see the opportunities and links with those. We'll also be looking at what we've got in particular for practical food lessons and thinking about safety with young children when they're doing food activities. So first of all, just in case anybody isn't familiar with Food A Fact of Life, this is our website of the British Nutrition Foundation, and it actually goes from 3 years up to 16 years. So I've just got a screen grab on there with the first tab, which is our 3 to 5 years, highlighted in orange there. And that's the area I'm going to be exploring in my presentation today and sharing with you. So our programme, our Food A Fact of Life programme, has been around for over 30 years now, and we went online digital about 17 years ago, and it started off with secondary food resources, and then over the years we've added to it, and now we've got the full scope right from 3 up to 16. So it's a progressive programme for anyone to use. All the materials are free, but it is aimed at practitioners or teachers, so they take those materials and then use them with their learners. So this is what's in the Food A Fact of Life 3 to 5 area, and you can just see, if I just go back there, the drop down that says healthy eating, cooking, where food comes from, etc. So what I've done here is this is what basically what's in the drop down. So I just wanted to give you an overview of what's there and then explain how I'm going to kind of talk to you about that. So in our 3 to 5 area, we have healthy eating, cooking, and where food comes from. And as I say, those are our main themes. They run through all the resources on the website, through all the different age groups, and they're progressive. So if you start working on healthy eating with 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, our website will ensure that when they're when they're working with, when they're 5 to 7 years old, when they're 7 to 11 years old, etc., that there is progression and that they're moving forward. So you can be reassured of that if you're using the materials on Food A Fact of Life. So the healthy eating, cooking, and where food comes from, there are 4 sessions or lessons in each of those areas, and the headings of those can just be seen below. So basically the sessions will give a plan of what to teach, etc. I'll go through one as an example in a minute, and the different resources, and that's the same for those first 3 areas. Then we've got a food commodities area, which takes a bit more of a closer look at some of our foods and where they come from, and that's done through sort of food journey cards, and we've also got some dot-to-dot activities and some counting sheets, etc. And then finally, we've got a section called activity packs. So there's resources in this that sort of explode out and have lots to them. So for example, our food-based sessions is 10 of those. Our 6 early years packs is 6 of those. There's lots of stuff. But I just wanted you to be able to see at a glance what's there. And then when I've been through some of the resources with you, I'll show you again this kind of slide and which bits we've looked at, so that you'll know what you can maybe go back and explore later. Okay, so first of all, to healthy eating, then, as I said, there's 4 different sessions in this. I'm just looking at the Eat Well Guide session, just to illustrate to you how that's the format of these materials. So there will be a session plan, and it's probably very, very familiar to you, perhaps how you see other session plans, or maybe you write your own plans if you're doing planning. So there's the learning at the top of these. So you can see those are the objectives of this particular session: to recognise the Eat Well guide. So that's our UK healthy eating model. To name foods in the different food groups, and to explain that we need different foods to be healthy, and we need 6 to 8 drinks a day. So this is about the Eat Well guide for very young children. Then there'll be a list of what resources are needed, and then a listen and respond section. So this is really where the teacher might be giving input and questioning the children. So just some examples of the type of questioning in this particular lesson. We'll be asking the children which are the biggest groups on the Eat Well guide, which is the smallest, what can you see? So already we've got some kind of like maths, numeracy language there, you know, the biggest, the smallest, some comparative language there. What foods can you see? Getting children to recall food names or possibly learn new names, new vocabulary. And then getting them to spot different foods. So bringing a sort of a game, a bit of fun. Where's this? Can you see this? For eggs, tomatoes, bread, you know, the different foods in the groups, and then which foods they've eaten. So getting them to consider what they can see and think about what they have eaten, etc. So the listen and respond section is really where the teacher or the practitioner gives their input and questions the children. So you've got lots of language and English and language in that section there. Then have a go is another part of it, where there's a small group activity, usually small group, but sometimes it can be whole class activity. And this is where, because we appreciate obviously in an early years setting, there might be some time where the practitioner is sat with the whole group of children, or other times when the children go off and do their independent play and learning, and the practitioner will go and sit with a group. So try to make these activities as versatile as possible to accommodate that. So there'll be, say, a whole group or a small group activity, and then a consolidating activity as well, which might be a discussion to recap what's happened, or another activity. So those are the session notes, and so you'll be able to, say, print those off, have those with you, so you know you've got guidance there, and say even suggested questions to ask, although I'm sure you'd naturally have a lot yourself if you're talking to your children. And so just to then say, as well as the session notes, so what resources accompany these sessions. So this one, for example, would have an Eat Well guide, just to make sure that you've got all the background information you need about healthy eating, so that you're delivering the right messages to the young people. This is a very simplified Eat Well guide that we've done here specifically for early years children. So we've really pared it down, so it's just kind of showing the food groups. The names of the groups excuse me, are on there as well, obviously maybe to be read by the group leader, the practitioner, or there may be some children starting to recognize letters as they're moving through, say, early years foundation stage settings. So nice, simple Eat Well guide. So this is what I'm referring to here when I'm saying, that you'd be asking questions about this, which are the biggest groups, and they might say, oh, the green, the yellow. They might say, obviously, not use the group name. They might refer to it by colour, but there's lots to look at on there, and lots of questions to get them to really focus on the foods they can see. Then I think the have a go activity for this particular session is to shuffle this set of food cards here, and maybe pull them out of a bag, or get children to pull them out of a bag, and then stick them around the Eat Well guide here by the groups where they would belong. And what this is doing is getting children to understand that foods are grouped by certain characteristics. So we've got a fruit and vegetable group, got a bread, potatoes, pasta group, etc. So starting to understand which foods kind of are grouped together, and then moving on to see, well, how much of these foods do we need? So how big are the groups? Because that's representing how much these foods should make up out of everything we eat. So it's getting them to start to think about healthy eating. So I say an obvious message from there is, on the fruit and vegetable group, we can see it's a large group. It's around 1/3 of everything we should eat, as shown by the Eat Well guide. So children starting to learn, oh, look how many fruit and vegetables I should be having, and you might move into the 5-a-day message with them as well. But it gives them a sense of what foods are and how much of them we need to have. And then the activity with this as well, the sort of could be used as a have a go activity as well. As I say, it's quite flexible. There's lots of little activity suggestions that can be picked up and used. And so for this one, the consolidation activity is a game. So I'm just going to put up the game here. So this would work with 4 children. So most of our small group activities are suggested or resourced for about 4 children. So this is the Eat Well Guide game. So you would make 4 copies of this. So you've got your 4 children sat round, 1 copy of this each. Same cards as you used for sticking around the Eat Well Guide image earlier with perhaps the whole class or perhaps with the group earlier, depending how you're using this. And these cards will go in the middle of the table upside down, and then you go around, the children take it in turns to pick one of the cards and see if they can fit it into their game board here. So let's have a go ourselves. So we've got some milk here. Can anyone in the chat tell me what colour group I should be putting that in? I have to open my chat box or I won't know. Well done, Alice. It's great. Well done, Francis. Great. Yeah, of course it's the blue group, isn't it? Okay, and then so this is my go. I've got that. Great. I've covered my blue group. My next go is, what am I going to get next from these cards? Let's see. Beans. So what group would I be able to cover? What colour group would I be able to cover with my beans? Well done, Ashley. That was really fast. Well done. Everyone's awake now and in a competitive mood, I can see. Well done. Yeah, of course it's pink, isn't it? It's a protein food. So we're taking in turns to go around like this. Here's the bread. Anyone want to tell me which group that belongs in? Yeah, well done, Ashley, again. Oh, fast there, very good. Leon, Sally, thank you. Emma. So on it goes like this, and we've got the strawberries there, brilliant. So this game's going very well for me. I'm really filling up my board. And then I've suddenly got, oh, another blue one. So if this would happen, then I'd have to put mine back in the pile, would have to go around. And what we're kind of trying to get to is for everybody to cover their boards. You know, we could say the first person to do it, well done, but then encourage the children obviously to help each other to finish off that. Now the eagle-eyed of the group will notice that actually these cards have got coloured frames on them to help the children put them into the right place. So depending on the ability and experiences of your children, you can keep those colours on and just see if they notice or not that they match the groups where they belong, or cut them off. So if you've got children who are a bit more experienced with health eating or food groups, Eat Well Guide, cut the frames off, then there's no clue, and you can see how they get on. Okay, so just like the healthy eating session we just looked at, I've jumped into the cooking one now, and I won't go through it in the same detail. I'll just sort of skim over what you could, the sorts of things you can expect in this one. So this is cooking and this is the tasting. So one of the four sessions. This is the tasting session. Just to say as well, I've underlined where we'll make this presentation available to you afterwards, and where the words are underlined, there's a hyperlink, so you'll be able to go straight to the particular resources that are shown on that slide, so it should be easy for you to access them. So this is the tasting session. It's all about tasting. You can see on the left side there, I've just got these are guides again that come with this session. So there's an ingredient checklist letter. So thinking about health and safety, sending this out to parents, carers, just to check for any allergies. You may already have this in your early years setting because, early year setting schools do tend to ask parents each term or, once a year to complete check letters. But if you're not sure, you must make sure, first of all, obviously there's no allergies or intolerances amongst your pupils in your group before you do any tasting. So this is a letter. If you need it, send it out. A tasting guide here. Now this is how to help you run a hygienic, safe session, so you can read it, how to set your session, how to sort of introduce tasting, and how to talk about, say, sensory vocabulary. So getting them to talk about what they can smell, they can taste, the sound as they're biting or handling food. So going through the senses. And again, we've got a nice link to literacy there and expanding vocabulary. So in the tasting session as well, the children are shown some different fruit and vegetables, and it could be other things you prefer, you know, different types of pieces of bread or different cheeses. It can try, you know, anything that suits you. You might be having a bread themed week, you know, so it could be a tasting activity to do with bread. So you can set up your session, show the children how to taste. So talk about, you know, the tasting guide will tell you how to do it, but, you know, to try one thing at a time, to smell it first, to, you know, taste it, to really savor it, to try to explain what it's like using different vocabulary, etc. So you'll illustrate how to do that. And then the children will go into groups, and again, probably small groups of 4, and perhaps try those with an adult leader or yourself. And then we've got what we call a My Food book. So it's actually a PowerPoint presentation, but it can be printed out. You can print random slides from it as to suit you, or you can print the whole thing out and sort of staple it down the left side, and it becomes like a tasting record for children. So there's different pages in that, so they can personalize it by drawing themselves, writing their name. Foods they like, or foods you've been tasting that they like, they want to make keep a record of. As I say, this doesn't all have to be filled out in one go. It's a sort of a thing that can be kept. And then getting them to think about what other people like. So it could be my friend likes, my dad likes, my uncle likes, whatever it suits them. So members of their family. So that could even be a homework task. They could do a home learning task. They could take that home with them. And then food, so we encourage children to, obviously never forcing children to eat particular foods, but sort of positive encouragement, and also, you know, sort of recognizing that we don't all like things straight away. We can come back and try them again. So this is kind of getting them to think about sort of health and well-being, getting them to think about, you know, making choices, etc. And then this is a bit of a sort of a recap from the session we just excuse me, looked at, where they can draw some different food and drinks that belong in the food groups. And then at the end of this session is a certificate, so you can say, be really positive about the fact that children have tasted different foods, and, you know, reward them with a certificate. And just another one in the cooking session, so I'm just highlighting 2 of the 4 there, is the hygiene session. So again, you get information about, you know, being hygienic and setting up, you know, sessions in a safe and hygienic way. And for the pupils for this one, there's a presentation which obviously you can show on a whiteboard, or on a computer or a laptop, and it just goes through all the different steps. We've got 2 quite fun characters that go through getting themselves ready to cook, and the children, it asks questions that obviously you would probably read out to children in early years about what they need to do, and then shows images of them ready to cook, you know, the hair tied back with aprons on, etc. So it's getting children to understand about hygiene and safety when they're cooking. And then there's a game, which is a sheet which you could laminate, so it could be reused, that shows the 5 steps we want children to think about when they're getting ready to cook. So taking off jewellery, tying back hair, etc. And then there's a sort of a spinning wheel, which you'll need to cut out the arrow and pop that in. And they take it in turns. Again, probably a group of 4 doing this task, take it in turns, spin the wheel. And what they're trying to do is collect all the getting ready to cook steps. So they take their spin, lands on the hand with a bracelet, so they tick the jewellery off stage, and then they go round to see if they've collected all the stages, and then they're ready to cook. And this is, I say, getting children prepared and understanding the different things they have to do when they are going to cook, you know, before they actually start making anything. And then other cooking resources, I say we've got such a lot of stuff, and I'm very fond of our early years materials, so I have to try and restrain myself from putting everything into presentations. But there was one other thing I decided to shoehorn in here. It's just some kitchen equipment jigsaws. So so we've got tasting, hygiene, cooking equipment, and making. Those are the 4 sessions in the cooking area. And so we've got lots of lovely illustrations of different cooking equipment, etc. So these were just some jigsaws. There's several sheets of these with each piece of, you know, cooking equipment sort of sliced into 3. So you can sort of obviously cut them all up, move them apart, get the children to put them back together again. Lots of opportunity there for conversation between the children and new vocabulary, learning the equipment, etc., and getting conversations going about food and cooking and what they enjoy doing, etc. I'll just let you look over these for a moment while I just take a sip of water. So we've got a really great recipe collection on our website, which has around 300, I think over actually 300 recipes. So I just wanted to highlight some I think are particularly good for early years. So our recipe's got a search function as well. So you can, if you know already there's something on there that you want to return to, you can search that, or you can search by age group or commodity. So, I want to cook something with lettuce in, or I want it to be very easy. I want it to be more complex, So this is a search that if you search the 3 to 5 years, these are some of the recipes that will come up. And these are really simple recipes. They involve sort of like early skills that you'd be learning when you're learning how to cook. For example, the picturesque pizza, it's pizzas on English muffins. So the bread aspect of that's already made. So it's really children, arranging, spreading some sauce on a muffin, setting some tomato sauce on there, maybe grating some cheese, or maybe just sprinkling the cheese, maybe snipping a few peppers with some scissors, a few pepper strips with some scissors, or maybe even say literally just arranging it on there so that then it can be taken away and cooked for them. So lots of great recipes on there, all designed for young children to get them developing the food skills, and obviously also practicing what they've learned about hygiene and safety and kitchen equipment and everything. So bringing it all together when they're making different foods. And then just to say that some of our recipes, not all unfortunately, because they aren't at the moment, but we do have step-by-step photos of some of the recipes as well, which I know in the past have been very popular with our early years colleagues. So this one's just for bagel bruschetta. I just wanted to demonstrate that down the bottom there. So I wonder if I just have a quick look in the chat box at the moment. I think Francis is having some conversations with people. But if you do, if you've used our resources before, or I'm showing you something today and you're like, oh yeah, I could do this with it, do talk out, pop it in the chat, because it's great to share ideas with one another in this sort of forum. And also we're very interested to hear from you if you're seeing something and going, yeah, that looks great, but I'd like this, or that would be better if it was a bit like this. That would be really, really helpful, because let's say we're always looking to improve and develop our materials, and so our ultimate aim really is to support our colleagues, to support our teaching colleagues. So my friend Francis and I are both former teachers, and we know there's time pressures and the difficulty, so we want to do everything we can with our resources and our training to be supportive. So we'd welcome your thoughts on what else you'd like, or what else would help you. Okay, so I'll move on. So that's just some recipes. I've just cut in with those on the website. So I'm going to food commodities now. Now I've missed off, I did healthy eating cooking. I'm not going to do where food comes from, because it may be a little bit repetitive, because I'm going to do food commodities instead. So this is an area, as I say, this is where we've got food journey cards, the dot-to-dots, and a few counting sheets as well. But just really to share the food journey cards. So we've got these for lots of different foods, from the different food groups. Very, very simple cards. They're all on one sheet here, but you can get a sense of. So this one here is about milk and where it comes from. So you've got, there's no words on here, but you've got pictures. So you've obviously got the dairy cows in the field, and then the milking. So these are, great for getting, again, discussion, asking children, what can you see? Have you seen these cows before anywhere? What's happening? What happens when cows are milked? And there's information about that sort of thing in our where food comes from area. So the details and the words and written tasks and things are in there. Then we look at what we get from the dairy cows. We get the milk, and then we look at what can be made with it, so the yogurt, the cheese, and then how that ends up, how we might eat that in the end. We might eat a cheese sandwich or macaroni cheese or whatever. So discussion cards that can be displayed, really good for ordering. So obviously you'd cut these up and get children to order themselves, and you could get several sets of the food journey cards and jumble them all up and let the whole group try to work out which ones belong together and what the order of them is. Or maybe you're just sorting, maybe you use the foods or the animals or the plants to do different sorting activities. Okay, so I'm moving on now to one of our activity packs. So say the activity packs, there's lots of sets of resources and things in those. So these are probably our most recent ones, I think, actually, and they're called 6 Early Years Activity Packs because there's 6 of them. And each of them, they're very simple. So if you go into them, I'm going to look at amazing allotments with you in a second, but if you go into them, you'll go in and you'll find a leader's guide, which is a bit like a session plan that we'll be looking at already, and then a presentation. Now the presentation is the magic, really, because that's got everything in it. It's got slides where you might, for discussion, images that you might discuss with the children to kick off. It's got any sheets or cards or games in there, and also a letter to take home. So take a little bit of a closer look. So as I say, there's the leader guide. Here's the presentation. Now I've just reduced the presentation slides. They're really small, so you can just get a sense of how many are on there. So this is hyperlinked as well, so you can go straight to this once you've got the presentation later on from Francis and I. So just to take a little bit of a closer look at those resources. So the way we did these 6 packs is thinking about our themes on Food a Fact of Life, our health eating, cooking where food comes from. We wanted to use those, but we also wanted to use the areas of learning in the early years, early years curriculum or curricula across the UK. Now, interestingly, I think most of our colleagues today are working in England, but we have got some from Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland as well, which is great. And when we did this, because we are UK wide, we went through all the different early years curricula across the UK. And what was fantastic actually is a great deal of similarity, and there isn't always, as you go up through schools, this kind of structure and the way things are done. But this sort of idea of having these areas of learning and kind of how the areas were grouped, very, very similar all the way across the UK, which was really great for us. So this, for example, so each of our 6 packs, we've got 2 that focus on healthy eating, 2 on cooking, 2 where food comes from. And then we've added in another a yearly years curriculum area as well. So for example, Amazing Allotments has a maths and numeracy focus and a where food comes from focus. So you can just see that on the left there. And the maths and numeracy focus is counting to 10. So we've got an allotment picture you can just see in the back there. So again, this is for talking to children. What is an allotment? Has anyone been on one before? What can you see on this one here? Has anyone grown their own food? So loads of conversations. Then there's a series of photos of different fruit and vegetables that have a specific number between 1 and 10 of that fruit and vegetable on there. So you've got your tomatoes there. So that's for counting on there. And just to check if anyone's awake, can you tell me in the chat box how many tomatoes are on there? I wonder if Ashley will be the first again. Very fast typer. Sarah Williams, well done. Fiona, Mary, Emma, Amy, well done. Lots of people still awake and still with me. Well done. If you've been working with young children all day, you're doing very, very well. But although I know actually a lot of early years settings are still until 6 o'clock at night, aren't they? So perhaps you're having your tea break and watching this. Well done, everybody. Yeah, that's 7 tomatoes on there. So we've got different numbers. The children are counting, and then you can see some sugar snap peas on the side there. Now they're very pale on my screen. I don't know what they look like to you, but they're actually cards, so you can cut them out, and there's several different ones. And with these early years activity packs, we've tried to think of activities that can be for imaginative play. So the idea with there's several slides with different vegetables on, and the idea is that children must go and plant them in the play area, so they create their own kind of allotment area in their imaginative play area, and they can put these vegetables on the ground there. And we've also got some signs, some labels that they can put with them as well, so they can pretend it's their own allotment in the play area. And again, it involves lots of counting, and you can talk to them about it. You know, perhaps they need to plant 3 sugar snap peas, 4 courgettes, etc. And then we've got an allotment game here on the left-hand side. So again, probably a group of 4. They roll the vegetable dice, which is there, and a normal dice as well. So if I roll the vegetable dice and I get tomatoes, and I roll the other dice and I get 4, I can colour 4 tomatoes in on my allotment. So that's a board game to get children again counting and thinking about these different fruit and vegetables. And then as we get to the end, we've got a certificate, which is nice because it sort of captures what children have done. Most people, adults included, like a certificate. So nice to display, nice to send home, so that they know, you know, parents, carers know that the children have been counting, etc. And then there's always a home activity with these sessions as well. So this one's a veggie count, so they go home, count up the different, count up and colour the different vegetable pictures on the sheet there. And it's a way of, I say, reinforcing. Obviously, we understand the importance of having support from home with reinforcing learning, and a nice activity as well, a nice, simple, straightforward activity that parents can do with the child and watch their child counting up. Okay, so food-based sessions. So I won't talk too much about these because it might start to become confusing, because there is some sort of, you know, style similarities with some of the materials, and it's probably nicer if you go and, you know, explore those yourself. But just to say, the food-based sessions, there are 10 of those. Although that wouldn't fit nicely in my screen grab, so there's only 9 there, but there's 10 of those. And these are packs as well, but they're very hands-on, practical food-based. So there's always a making activity involved in these. So there'll be a healthy eating message, some teaching about a specific food, a card game, then the practical activity, and then again something to take home. So, for example, I'll run through Tasty Toast in a moment, but just while I'm here, there's a pleasing pasta session. So in that one, it sort of starts to talk to children about starchy foods, you know, in a simple way, saying, you know, we need to base out what we eat on starchy foods, like pasta. So that is an example. It then looks at different shapes of pasta, talks about pasta originating from Italy and where other foods we originate from. Then they make the pasta salad. And then there's, when they go home, there's sort of a pasta bingo where they have to go and find different types of pasta in the local supermarket. So that's kind of how it draws together, kind of picks and these are based around meal occasions as well. So linking to meal occasions, practical food activities, and a sort of a focus on a particular food, making it interesting to learn a bit about where it comes from, its heritage, etc. So I say this is just, I was going to talk about the Tasty Toast one, but I'm just going to flip over that very gently, and say let you go and explore those in your own time. Yes, so just to pull out a couple of resources from it though, we've got in this one Tasty Toast about breakfast, and then doing a toast topping, and just 2 of the activities in that. We've got, you can see some breakfast cards there, and that's to play a breakfast pairs game. So again, getting children, you know, to count how many pairs they've got, to match things up, to use their memory, to talk about what they can see on the foods. So generating, say, conversation, discussion, etc. And the take-home letter there is sort of like a breakfast diary. So encouraging children to talk to parents, carers at home, hopefully have breakfast together, a drink and something to eat, and to record it on their chart. So lots of fun, lots of games. All these resources are designed just to provide as many props, so many ideas and games as possible. We know that early years is all about, learning through play and really enjoying education, getting positive, being positive about learning. So this is what I said I'd do at the beginning. So when you go through this PowerPoint, when it comes through to you, you can see that what we have in that drop down in the 3 to 5 area, and anything I've highlighted in pink below is what I've spoken to you about just now. So you know what to go back to and have a look at later, and what you might have seen already. So just a quick update about something that's related really to primary, but I know many of our early years colleagues will be based in the nursery in primary schools. So you may have colleagues that might be interested in finding out about this, or in fact, perhaps you work in early years and you're also working with 5 to 7 years as well. So this might be something of interest to you. So we've just launched Teaching Primary Food Nutrition, which is a free professional development program, and it's for anyone in primary or primary aged children, teaching and working with them. So it could be trainees, teachers, or teaching assistants. The first 1,500 people to register will actually get a physical folder and a sort of a I've written folder and binder in there. So you get a folder and then a booklet that goes into it as well. You'll get a physical copy of those if you're in that first group that register there. So what happens is you'll register, you complete a short audit about your food teaching experiences and what you practice. Then there's documents and information. Either you'll get a physical set of that, or you'll get it online if you're not within the first 1,500. And you'll use it to plan your own, it's very much in your own hands and self-led, plan your own professional development. So, it'll give you lots of ideas on how you can do that. And also we offer lots of free training events throughout the next couple of years, which actually start at the end of January. So you'll be able to think, okay, yeah, I need to know more about hygiene and safety. I need to know more about cutting skills. I need to know more about recipes. So you look through the list of information we've given you, you work out what you need, and then you look at, we've got some suggestions, like you might go up to a secondary school or into another classroom to observe somebody, or it might be come along to one of our training events. And then you basically reflect on what you've seen and how it might affect your practice, try things out, keep a record, and so that's your sort of your journey there, really. So provide you with the tools to plan and execute your own professional development journey in food and nutrition. So just to let you know, just keep up to date then. So this is for, say, anyone teaching pupils from age 3 up to 16 who's interested in keeping up to date. I know quite a lot of you probably already receive our education newsletter because that's how we talk about our events like this one today. Do follow us on Twitter as well. That's quite a good way of being, recapping. We recap materials we have on there, but also that's where we talk about all our newest, latest materials. And education news is just out once a month. So there's an in-between time there where you might be able to pick up something on Twitter. And you're very welcome to email me anytime at c.theobald@nutrition.org.uk.